Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports, and a bit of an interesting sort of update in Six Nations. So obviously last weekend we saw that France versus Scotland was postponed due to the outbreak of COVID-19 within the France camp, which would have seen basically they couldn't actually field a side. Basically, there were just too many players that they had unavailable. But the decision was to postpone the game rather than to cancel it and award Scotland the points, which has often been the case in sort of a lot of the club rugby in and around the world, where if a side can't field a team, then they forfeit the points. But obviously, being the Six Nations, being the fact that there are so few games anyway, you don't really want to just award the team the points if there is a possibility that you can reschedule the game. Now, it was going to be quite complicated in terms of having to reschedule the game, and Scotland were adamant that they wanted to play the game itself because of how complicated it would have been to reschedule the game in terms of trying to get all their players available. A lot of players based in England, and any sort of rescheduling of the game would have fallen outside the international test window, which would have meant that players playing in England, for example, and stuff wouldn't have been available. And there's been a lot of criticism now, sort of, about the fact that Fabien Galtier, the French coach, actually broke the bubble, and it's sort of being blamed for the reason why there is this outbreak, and therefore saying that award Scotland the points, move on and stuff like that. And it would have massive ramifications, because it would mean that suddenly Wales will be looking very good to win the Six Nations, because France and Wales are the two sort of leading candidates, and if France were to have to forfeit the victory, it means they would have almost been taken out of the running, without being able to get any points against Scotland. So at the moment, they have now scheduled a new potential date for the 26th of March, the weekend after the final, or would have been the final round of the Six Nations. Here comes the problem. Once again, there are issues with it being out of the international window, and the Premiership players in particular are the ones sort of being sort of flagged as the issue, because Gregor Townsend rightly has said that we will not play the game unless we can have our full squad. It doesn't seem fair, and it's not fair for them to play a weakened squad because they've had to change the game for circumstances that weren't out of their control. There was initial talk about the fact that it would have to take place in the next test window, in July. Thankfully, it looks like they are trying to maybe work it before then. And so French Rugby Union has backed the 26th of March. It is a Friday, and now the Scottish Rugby Union is sort of deciding what to do, whether they're going to accept the change. And it all comes down to the Premiership and whether they're willing to relax their, what is usually a very strict stance on not making players available for the international teams outside the international window. It is a tricky situation, and I think that Scotland have every right to demand that the game not go ahead unless they do have all of their players. But if the Premiership does allow their players to go and play, Captain Sherdhog being one of them, it would be really, really good for the competition and the tournament's integrity if Scotland were to agree to the date and to play the game. And I think that they will. It all comes down to if they can get their squad together. I think they would be happy to play that extra game. And because they don't want to, even if suddenly put Scotland in the running and maybe they can try and do something special in the Six Nations, you don't want to be winning a competition because of a forfeited game. You want to be able to, within preserving the integrity of the competition, play all the matches. So it's a very interesting sort of situation that we currently find ourselves in, and I'm quite glad on the one hand that they've been quite proactive and that they're willing to try and look at alternative dates, even if it's outside the international test window. And this is something I keep saying, given the fact that the situation is so unique and that within COVID-19 there's so much going on, there's so many different factors, we need to be more flexible. All the unions, all the teams, all the competitions, all coaches have to be flexible, because you can't just expect it all just to happen normally. It's not the case. There are some factors you just can't control. And so I'm hoping that, and it looks like it could be likely the Premiership might, in this particular instance, given the fact that we're in such unique circumstances, allow their players to go and play, and we can get the match done. So let's really, fingers crossed for that. It'll be a great way to bring an end to the Six Nations, to have that Scotland-France game in the last weekend. Depending on what happens with Wales and France or whatever, it could even be a sort of a tournament-defining match. So for me, it's crucial that it does go ahead, and I really want to see it going ahead. We hate forfeits. We can understand it, and it will be fair, I suppose, if the game was forfeited, but it's just not a nice thing to be able to do. It just takes away the thrill of it. It takes away, there's always a bit of a question mark sometimes. You talk about titles with asterisks next to them. You don't want that. You want to be able to have all the matches played, and you can say, without a doubt, this side was the best side. There were no outside factors. They had all their players. They had the opportunity, and they were the best side, or they weren't the best side, and or whatever. So we'll keep you updated on what's happened there. As I said, it's all up to the Scottish Rugby Union at the moment. They will have to make the final decision. They are waiting on sort of confirmation from all the clubs to ensure that they will have all their players. Something like Finn Russell playing in France. So, but it sounds, touch wood, it sounds like if the clubs will allow their players to play with Scotland and be with Scotland, Scotland can field a full side, that they are willing to look at that rescheduling. And on the 26th of March, on the Friday, we will finally have a close of the Six Nations with all the games being played, which is priority number one. If that is not the case, I would imagine they'll probably move towards a forfeit. I mean, to think of trying to wait for the next international window in a few months' time just nullifies the entire point of it, really. So for me, it's either 26th of March or nothing. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. We'll be doing a live watch along this weekend of Ulster versus Leinster. Doing a bit of a sort of Pro 14 watch as we gear towards the Rainbow Cup. Not too much, no international rugby, anything like that, or any rugby in South Africa this weekend. But we will be covering some of the stuff over the couple of days. So make sure you keep it all locked on Forever Sports. And I'll chat to you very soon.